Welcome, everyone. This is ICF Orange County. We are so pleased to have our special guest speaker today, Marion Franklin. Marion is the author of The Heart of Laser Focused Coaching, and we read her book in our book club, and she was gracious enough to show up at our book club meeting, and that was just a powerful meeting. People loved it, and then we begged her to come back so that we could share her with our larger group. And again, she was gracious enough to agree. So I'd like to share with you a little bit about Marion. And I've also got, I've been referred to Marion by one of my colleagues a few times as someone who is excellent to go to if you want help getting certified. So that's just my personal endorsement. Um, but let me read the official bio here. So Marion is a master certified coach since 2006 and a professional certified coach since 1998. She currently teaches her own unique ICF approved coach training program. Laser coach your way to sustainable success, emphasizing masterful coaching skills. Marion's book, The Heart of Laser Focused Coaching, a revolutionary approach to masterful coaching, was written for coaches of all experience levels. She created and facilitates ongoing weekly group mentor practicums, Coach with Confidence, offering certification preparation with ICF CCEUs. Marion enjoys mentoring and preparing coaches for the ACC, PCC, or MCC certification with a 100% success rate thus far. Her wisdom and insight are evident through her ebook, audiobook, Life's Little Lessons, and Coach Camp's audios. Her website is http://lifecoachinggroup.com, and I believe we can type it into the chat for you. Marion maintains individual coaching clients and is in demand for her laser approach and direct style of coaching. Marion has been interviewed on television for her coaching expertise, has been a featured presenter, and was cited in the Wall Street Journal. Marion, we are so honored to have you with us today. Thank you so much for being with us, and I will hand it over to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And, listening to that introduction, I feel like I'm going to disappoint people. It sounds like I'm fabulous. Well, no, but thanks, really. And thanks, everybody, for coming because, this is a choice. And so I really appreciate it. And the more videos that are on, the more excited I get, just FYI. Okay. So I know that there's a huge number of people who are overlapping who came to the book club, and then there are all the people who didn't come to the book club. So there may be things, because the book club was kind of, I want to say, casual, so there may be things that overlap for sure. And so just either you're hearing it again and hopefully it'll stick even better, and or you don't remember it, and or it is what it is. So before I jump in, though, I always start every talk and every presentation with the same exact little opening. And I put it in the book as well. And that is my caveat and my invitation. And my caveat is that everything that I share and everything, by the way, that I'm going to say is in the book somewhere. So everything that I share is truly from my experience. It doesn't mean it's the best way. It doesn't mean it's the right way. And it definitely doesn't mean it's the only way. But from having been a coach now for well over 25 years, I can tell you from experience and listening literally to thousands of recordings that these are things that work. They just do. And so the invitation is to just be open, because some of the things that I will say will not only be maybe new, but sometimes shocking, but also sometimes just very, very contradictory to what you've learned. And so just to be open to trying new things. So I just quickly want to see by a quick, you can just kind of go like this. How many people have read the book? So if you could so I just get an idea, and just hold your hands up for a second, so just so I can see videos. Okay, so that looks like not clearly. Well, okay, got it. Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to start with, again, an opening question that just really gets the conversation going and I think is an important one. And that is for us to make a distinction between masterful coaching and what I'm going to call mediocre coaching. So, with that said, I would like to hear from you. So, I'd like you to unmute when, if you can, and speak. And let's share, what do you think is the difference that makes coaching masterful versus just mediocre? So, what are some of those things?
Well,
Well, one is bumpy, sorry. One being the non-master would be bumpy and trepidatious, and the master would be very focused, confident, and skillful at excavating something of interest directly related to the client's needs.
Okay, good. Very nice. Okay, who else?
I would jump in and say that as a receiver of coaching, when I've had my best experiences, I felt very personally connected to the coach, and we've had very relevant conversations, and I've always had a shift. But I've had other times with coaching, which would be in the mediocre category, where there was a lot of listening and a lot of nodding and a lot of reflective questions, but nothing really,
Substantial.
yes.
Got it. Okay, so I'm just quickly looking at chats and I see agility, really responding to what's showing up in the moment. Absolutely. Start fast to deep. Okay. The master will focus entirely on the client, not on the coach. 100%, 1,000% present. Thank you, Jana. Master gets to the heart of the matter with heart. Yes. A powerful question that shifts my mindset or way of being. Okay, so that can be deceiving, Linda, because people think that a question has to be so spectacular to be powerful. And I'm going to prove to you that a powerful question could be as simple as, what does that mean? It doesn't have to be a truly there is no such thing, I'm going to say, as a powerful question. It's all about timing, and it's all about how much you, I want to say, capture what you've heard. So it's really not about the question itself. Does that make sense? That makes sense, Linda? I see you're nodding, so I guess that you're saying yes. Okay, what else? Anything else that you think makes it masterful? Because you certainly covered some great points.
I would say a coach who has the ability to sense extreme discomfort and leans back all the way, understanding how productive that moment is about to be. They let the client do the work, and they don't do that quick. Oh no, they're not saying anything. Let me fill the air so I can stop them from thinking.
Absolutely. And you are going to get a major demonstration of that. So
I have no doubt. I've had the pleasure of you before.
Okay, good. So so one thing, just in terms of our agenda, so to speak, is that I will be playing, and I know this was in the advertisement, I will be playing a 15-minute clip of a portion of a coaching conversation. And I think you're going to get to hear a lot of what you've been saying makes a conversation more masterful. So, and I think, a lot of what Camber said was really the sense of fluidity and confidence, which is so important. And that comes literally from trusting the process. You trust yourself, you trust the client, but you actually trust the process. And I am absolutely certain that, and I know I put this in the book purposely, that to this day, MCC does not make a hell of beans of difference in terms of the fact that anyone can get stuck in a conversation and really not know where is this going. Everybody goes through that at times, and that's okay. The distinction is that there's no freak out about it. There's rather, oh yeah, I can't quite see where this is going, and then turning it to the client. So what would be helpful at this point is how simple you can get out of, I have no idea what we're doing here. It's just that simple. So I want to add just a few things to the what makes coaching masterful. And of course, one of the biggest ones, and the book really emphasizes, and I'm not pushing for the book by any means, I'm just saying that if this interests you, there's so much more. It's about separating the person from the story. That really makes a huge difference. And you hear that all the time in training, you know, separate the who from the what. But everyone says, but okay, so what does that really mean? And I am going to tell you how simple it is. Every question you ask has to be about the person, not the story. You never, ever need more information about their story. You always want to find out, where are they in this? As long as the question is about your client and their thinking, their behavior, their being in some way, you are out of the story. So, for example, if I ask a question, like you share something that happened and I say, well, what did he say that got you so upset? The key to know why that's a terrible question is because the client already knows the answer. They already know exactly what was said that got them upset. They're not learning anything by that question. That's a question only for you, which is what I call nosy curiosity. Like you're curious, oh, what did he say that got you so upset? That's the coach being curious, but it doesn't help the client because the client knows exactly what was said. So the key is, what was it like for you when you heard that and got upset? Or what made that so upsetting for you? Or anything that actually focuses on the client, not the story. The story is, we had this encounter and it was terrible and I got really upset. That's all you need. You don't need to know anything about the encounter itself. Does that make sense for people? Yes, few heads, thank you. Okay. We've talked, so no attachment to the outcome. We've kind of talked about that and trusting the process. You're not gunning for results. If you're gunning for results, you're in trouble because you're missing an amazing opportunity to really move this client's thinking. And that's what makes coaching masterful, is that your client ends up thinking differently, not doing differently. We don't care how many actions they take, how many things they promise they will do. It's about their thinking that has to change. And if we can change their thinking, then it is deeper and better coaching. A coaching conversation, so this is something I hear so often, there can't be any jargon or any, I want to say, coach-like terminology. So you have to make the conversation sound like it's a regular, normal, we're sitting having lunch together kind of conversation. But the difference is you don't share about yourself and you're the one asking the questions. But in terms of the wording, it has to be natural. You don't say, you know, I pick on this one question because I have such a hard time with it. And I know coaching schools teach it. And I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying for me, it wouldn't work. Who do you have to be in order to whatever? And I would much rather, to me, that's not a natural question that you would say to a friend. Well, who do you have to be to, you know, I don't think you would say, I don't think you would say that to a friend, but rather, what are the qualities that you would need in order to, or what are the characteristics of a person who would whatever? Does that make more sense, that it just should sound natural and not coach-like? Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah. Mhm.
Good. There should be no formula. Coaching is not cookie cutter, nor is it formulaic. And a lot of people try to make it a formula, and it's really not. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end, but there is no formula. Sometimes you don't get the agreement until 15 minutes in, and that's okay. There is no formula. What else? Oh, and the other thing is that I always say is that nobody should ever know where you got trained. And when I say that because I can hear very often what school somebody went to by their questions or their style. Different things that show up, I can tell. And that already makes it not masterful coaching, because it's supposed to be natural. Okay, so I think enough about that. Okay, now what I have purported all along for a while now is that the client comes with their story. So you ask, what is it that we could look at that's going to be important today? Or what is it that will, make a difference for you? Or whatever your opening question, other than how's it going? But, you have your opening question. And then the client launches into their story of the week. Well, I really have this thing going on with my coworker, and he's just driving me crazy, and and they get into their whole story, right? We all agree that's how it begins. The first question after that story is probably the most important question of the conversation, because that is going to set the tone for how deep the conversation goes. So you hear the story. And the thing that is most important, because they've just told you a lot of words, you want to reflect, but not mimic or parrot what they've said. They know what they just said at the beginning, maybe not further down in the conversation, but certainly at the beginning, they know exactly what they just said. They don't need to hear you say, so it seems that when he does this, you get really angry, and then he tried this and that. No, we don't need to do that. What we need to do is encapsulate what we've heard and let them know that they've been heard. That's what's important. So they launch into the story, and then it says, it sounds like this is so upsetting for you. Or it sounds like this is really disturbing. Or you try to find an emotion if you can. And even if you're not right, not to worry about it, because if you're wrong, you'll get corrected, and that's fine. It's not about being right or wrong. So it sounds like this has been a really hard time for you with this person. What makes you bring it at this point in time to our conversation? Could be a question, because I want to know, like, why now, right? Or whatever question I'm going to ask, I have my basic thing that I ask people to try. And that is always, there are a few exceptions, but in general, always start your questions with the word what. And everybody argues with me. Everybody knows why we shouldn't say why questions, because then the person gets defensive, and we all know that. But everybody says, but what about the how question? Why can't I ask a how question? And I say, because a how question is usually more about methodology, and a what question is assuming, in quotes, that there's a response to it. So for example, how did you like that? Oh, I did like it. I thought it went well. What did you like about it is just so much more powerful. So over and over again, what I've discovered is that what question just makes the question more powerful. It's almost like an automatic. And as I say, there are some exceptions, but mostly at the end of the conversation, when you want to know how something might be, that's different. But to keep in mind, to just here, this is an invitation. Just see what happens if you only ask what questions. Just try it. Now, it can be awkward because it's not something you may be doing automatically, but I promise you, I really do, that there will be a difference. So I'm just asking you to try it. So this first question that you ask with a reflection is critical. And it shouldn't be, what do you want from the conversation? And I go into that in great depth, but the gist of it is that whatever they tell you they want, it's going to change as the conversation unfolds. And therefore, I always say that first question is going to help you already start to get to, what is this really about? And as you get closer to what it's really about, then you can ask them, what do they want from this conversation, and do the agreement part of it. Okay. So anybody have any questions so far? Anything that they would like to say? Anybody? Yes, Terrell.
Hi, Terrell.
Huh.
Hi. Hey, I just wanted to say I read your book and I absolutely loved it. And now every client I say, I look at them and as they're talking, I say to myself, why are they telling me this? And why are they telling me this now? And it just feeds it just is fantastic advice. I just wanted to let you know that. I
Good.
love your book.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, there are actually two questions to hold in mind. And yes, one is, why is he or she telling me this? And the other one is, what makes this a problem for this person? And the example I always give, if let's say Sharon and I have a lunch date, and I say, Sharon, pick your favorite restaurant where you really want to go. Of course, not during COVID, but pick your favorite place you really want to go. And then a half an hour before we have this date, I call you and I say, you know what? I can't make it. Something has come up and I just can't. And you say, oh my God, I'm so disappointed. I was so looking forward to it. I was really hoping to go there. I've always wanted to go there. So that's how you respond. But I have the exact same date with Greta. And I say, Greta, I'm sorry, I just can't make it. And Greta says, oh, no problem. We'll just postpone. Don't worry about it. What's different? The same exact scenario, but two different responses. And that's what you have to hold in mind, that everybody is different. And therefore, thinking in your mind, what makes it a problem for this person is critical. And the part about why is he or she telling me this? So the example, and I know this is kind of, when I put it in the book, I had to always change things, so that people wouldn't be recognized unless they gave me permission. So I can't tell you exactly how it is in the book, but I can tell you what really happened. So the person came to the call and they said, feeling kind of vulnerable about this, and it's really a little difficult for me to share, but I really have to make a decision. So my child is in school and there seems to be a problem at the school, and I'm trying to figure out, do I hire somebody who's working in the school to help with this, or do I get somebody outside of the school? And that's really what I want to talk about today. So as a coach, what would you do now with your first question? What would your first question be about? Anybody?
What are some of your immediate concerns, positive and negative?
Okay, what else?
What makes this such a dilemma for you?
Okay. What else?
What outcome do you want for your
Okay.
child?
Okay. So far, nobody's even
Can't answer. I know that.
Okay, so if you know the answer. So what is making this so vulnerable and difficult to share? That was a by the way comment that made the difference for the entire conversation. It wasn't about figuring out which teacher or which person to hire. It was about what makes this vulnerable. Don't skip over things. Those by the way comments are precious. And as it turned out, it was about the vulnerability because there was this amazing fear about her child. And that's how quickly we were able to get there, because the vulnerable, difficult to share wasn't ignored. Does that make sense for people? Okay, good. All right.
Excuse me, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
It's Jen.
Yeah.
So you had said, the question prior was how would you start it? You don't start a coaching conversation by, so what would you like to coach about, and what, so here we go. I was trained that was my first question.
Oh, the literal first question, you're saying before the story.
Yeah,
I'm focused
exactly.
on the first question after the story.
Thank you very much. I'm feeling much better.
But I do like to say in that question, in the opening, we have about 30 minutes today. What is it that we could look at or focus on that would be really important for you? So something like that, or what would make a difference for you, or what might be of value, or something, a little more sophisticated, I want to say. But no, I'm really focused on that first question after the story, because that's the one that gets the most lost, I want to say. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Anything? Okay. So I'm gonna now I'm gonna go kind of quickly, because I really want you to listen to this clip, and that clip is really going to demonstrate everything that I will say. Direct communication. That is, unfortunately, in the new set of competencies, kind of lost, I want to say. It was actually, believe it or not, my favorite competency. And now it's kind of been absorbed into evokes awareness. And I'm disappointed, not that ICF has asked me anything, but I'm disappointed, because for me, it's such an important one, and it doesn't get demonstrated appropriately. So I actually believe that we as coaches can literally say whatever we need to say. It's the question of how do we do it? That's the distinction. And I always say, don't ever change your message. Soften the delivery, but say what you have to say. And there are 3 rules, okay? So the first rule, don't use the word you. So if I say, Rick, you sound angry, Rick's going to look at me and say, well, who are you to tell me how I sound? Right? It's accusatory if you think about it. I'm telling him how he feels. But if I say, Rick, it sounds like there's some anger. It's so neutral. And he can say, yes, I think there is, or no, I'm not angry. I'm actually disappointed, or whatever the thing is. It doesn't matter. But the point I'm making is, when you use the word you, you're telling them something about them that you may be wrong. And it's okay to be wrong, but not when you're kind of, I want to say, observing / accusing them of something. So rather than use the word you, do it in third person. It sounds like, it seems like, I get the sense that, I have an impression that, from listening, it seems to me. So number one is don't use the word you. Number two is own it. It's your observation. It's not that you're right or wrong. I get a sense that there's some anger going on. I'm owning that. It's my sense. I'm not telling you it is. I'm telling you I get that sense. And then the third piece of that is follow it with a mini question. So what do you think? What about that? What's true about that? What comes to mind? But a little mini question. And why is that question so critical? Because you want them to have an opportunity to respond to your observation. And what happens so often, and coaches don't realize, we say things because we're not emotionally invested in the client's stuff, right? They're emotionally invested, but we're not. So we sometimes say things that actually are so important and don't even realize it. And so what happens is, so let's go back to that example about the anger. So if I say, it sounds like there's some anger going on here. So I'm wondering, what would you like to do about blah, 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 blah? That is totally glossing over the fact that I think there's something going on here that the client may not be aware of. So I need to give them that opportunity. You don't move to a normal, quote unquote, normal question. You give them an opportunity to respond to your observation. That is so important. Okay. So any questions, anything so far you want to, because that's my quick and dirty on direct communication. All right. Okay. Moving along. Let's look at different ways to create the shift. So everybody here has had clients who have said, oh my gosh, I never thought of it like that before. And we get like so excited. Oh my God, that's what we want to hear, right? This is like the perfect thing we want to hear. How did we do it? What made it happen? Do we know? Can we repeat it? I'm not sure people always know what got the client to say that, right? So there are several ways we can help a client get to the shift and really be able to say, oh, yeah, I never thought of it like that, because that's what we really want to hear. Okay, so the first thing to understand about the shift is that there's a statistic that 90% of people move away from pain and only 10% move toward pleasure. And I know you're going to ask me where I got the statistic, and I got it from a Thomas Leonard in-person, so you know how long ago that was, a Thomas Leonard in-person conference, probably in the year 2000 or something. And I heard it said, and I thought about it, and then I paid attention to it, and I see how amazing that statistic is, whether it's literal or not. And that is, if you think about it, when people come to us with a problem, they want to get away from something. I want to stop scrimping. I want to have more money. I'm tired of living like this. I want a different job. This is so meaningless. They're trying to get away from something that's not working for them. Would you say that's pretty much accurate? Even if I want to be a leader, so to speak, but they're not motivated to be a leader until they figure out what's in the way and what's keeping them from, and so on and so forth. So we're looking for the pain. And what happens is that clients know their situation isn't good, but they don't know just how bad it is. And that's part of our job, is to help them see just how bad their situation really is. Because we can tolerate, as human beings, jobs that are unfulfilling. We can tolerate it. We can tolerate scrimping. We can tolerate a relationship that we know is going nowhere. We can tolerate those things. But we don't see just how bad it is until someone else points it out. So one of the ways in creating the shift is to help people really see their pain point. So I like to ask them, and I'll give you an easy example. The client says, if I share my feelings, he will leave me. Pretty standard type statement, right? If I do this. So that's what we're listening for, by the way, in every conversation. We're listening for, what does the client think is true that may not actually be the truth? So if I say, if the client says, if I share my feelings, he will leave me. Well, it's possible that he will, but it's just as possible that he won't. Do we agree? We don't know, right? It's not the truth. It's a perception or an assumption. Thank you, Linda. So, okay, so the question is, what is it costing you to hold back your feelings? And the client will immediately answer, well, it's my energy, my time, my this, my that. They have a whole thing of what it's costing them. That's an easy question. And therefore, the follow-up question must be, aside from your time, your energy, whatever the list was, what else is it costing you to hold back your feelings? I repeat the entire statement. And what happens with that second question? And what happens with the first question? In the first question, they're giving you an answer they already know. They already know it's untenable. They already know it's not a good situation. But when you ask them, what else is it costing you? Now they have to get introspective and realize it's my self-esteem, it's my value, it's something way deeper. In fact, very often they just cry from that second question because they realize the depth and scope of what something is really costing them. So that's one way. Another way is, and you'll hear this in the clip, a challenge question. So, and we can use that same example because none of these should be used, in any formulaic way. So the client says, if I share my feelings, he will leave me. What if you knew that if you shared your feelings, he would feel closer to you and be grateful? What would that mean for you? So that's a challenge question, because I'm really saying, we don't know, but what if you knew that this would be the ending? Then what? You see what I'm saying? Like, that opens people up. What if you knew? And you'll hear that on the clip. I like to do exaggerated examples. So I had a woman who told me that she was very disturbed because her friend told her she was doing a bad parenting job. And I said to her, well, let me ask you a question. Supposing instead your friend had said, I really don't like the way you do your hair. What would you think? And she said, I don't care what she thinks about how I do my hair. I've been doing it like this for years and I'm happy with it. And I said to her, what's different about that than her telling you about your parenting? So it was a completely exaggerated example that had no connection, obviously, her hair to this person, but it was the same principle. The person was giving an opinion. And what makes her fall apart at that opinion versus another opinion? Do you see what I'm saying? So sometimes the exaggerated example works. Remove the obstacle. So I had a client who said, I really want to build up my business, but I have so many doctor appointments. I don't really have time. And so now I'm removing the obstacle when I say, what if you didn't have any doctor appointments? What would be different? And that's when I heard, oh, yeah, then I'd have to work on my business. So what happens there is that when you take away, I don't have enough time. Well, what if you had all the time in the world? I don't have enough money. Well, what if you had all the money? What if just whatever they think is their obstacle, it's really an excuse. Now, could money be real? Absolutely. That could be real. But I'm going to say most often what they think is their obstacle is really just an excuse. And last but not least is the one that we've all been kind of, I want to say, trained to do, which is a discrepancy or a disconnect between two things. And it just came up the other day. Somebody sent me a recording, and the client said at the beginning, I just so upset with this person, and I'm so angry, and this person does this and the person does that, and it's too hard to work with this person. And as the conversation goes on, the client said, it's okay. I mean, look, it's not good, but it's okay. Wait a second. In the beginning, it was awful. And now it's just okay. So you have to call them out on things like that. When you hear any kind of discrepancy, they say one thing and then it sort of sounds like they're saying something different. You have to call them out. Don't let them get away with anything. That's really important. So, okay. Any questions, any thoughts, anything so far that you want to say? Ask. Okay.
I'm curious if there's ever a time that you do sense, they're so defended, the resistance is they really don't want to feel their feelings or look at this. When do you maybe tread a little more slowly or gently?
Well, I would ask them, what is really going on here? That's it. I want to understand what this resistance is about. Now, if they say it's something that I really don't want to talk about, it's just too hard at this point, fine, then I have to move on. But usually when you ask it in a neutral way, well, what is this really all about? They will give you a reason as to what's really happening for them. So it's not, sometimes they're ashamed or embarrassed to share something. So they just rather, resist and try to avoid. Does that make sense, Jana?
Yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so here's what we're going to do. As I say, because of time, I mean, there's so much more I could say, but I also want to, keep things on track. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just play an audio, and I'm going to tell you what happened at the beginning because you're only going to hear the middle. So this was a client who came and said, I'm having trouble with my client. She's turning 30, and I think she should be a lot farther ahead than where she is. And there were some questions around that. There were definitely, I would say is probably about maybe 10 minutes or so of trying to figure out what is this really about? Okay, so I'm picking up, you're going to hear now the clip with from that point forward. All right. So let me.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So you are talking to a coach who's talking about her client.
It's a him, and
him.
it's a coach
Okay.
about his client. Yes, that's correct.
I really do think it's because we're both turning 30 and I probably want to be farther along.
Well, then I'm confused because based on what you've described about this woman, there's no comparison. So where is this coming from?
Well, I think there is a comparison in the sense that we're both turning 30 and I want her to feel good turning 30 and I want myself to feel good turning 30. So that's what I'm seeing as how I'm comparing.
Okay, so let's take her out of the picture.
That's important.
So
Okay.
what's up with you not feeling good about turning 30?
I guess I thought I'd be in a relationship by now. I am just now paying off like the business debt. So our business is doing really good. The debt's finally paid off. And now I'm like unsure of how much money to take out of the business. And so I just feel a little bit unstable. Whereas at 30, like I thought I'd feel more stable. But I am talking to a finance person that's helping with all of that to figure out what's realistic to be able to take out of the company now that all the debt's paid off. So yeah, I think it has to do with the business growth, being in a relationship, thinking I'd have a relationship by now. And yeah, I think just all the expectations I put on being 30 when it's all not real.
So what is it about 30 that's so special?
I think I had this idea that I'd have everything figured out by 30, that like be with somebody, I'd be being able to buy a place. I would be able, like I'd have stability. Like I looked at 30 as like, oh my gosh, kind of not like really the growing's done, but it's life becomes more stable. And I don't think that that's it yet, which I know is unrealistic because 30 is still young.
I'll say. So, okay, so what if you knew that what you're describing is more like 50 rather than 30? What difference would that make?
That's interesting. That's a weird thought that just came up. That then I'm just, I guess, normal, or then I didn't like achieve more than what's possible. Like, I don't know. I think I have my expectation on myself to like go above and beyond.
Really?
And I don't want to wait till 50.
And where is that all coming from?
That's insane. I thought I had worked through some of the stuff, but what's coming up is proving myself, like feeling like I have to prove myself.
To whom?
That's the thing. I have no idea. I guess obviously myself. But yeah, there's this belief that like there's always more and nothing's ever enough, and I'm always striving for more and more and more.
Where does that come from?
Notice they don't let anything go.
Yes, I've been doing it my whole life. Interesting. Yeah, it comes from just feeling different my entire life and always having to prove myself and make myself worthy, I guess. Starting back in, elementary school with friends. And then, throughout my whole life.
Yeah. So what if you knew that, different or not different, you're totally fine? What would that do for you?
Give me peace. I feel like a part of me does know that.
Yeah, but let's talk about the part that doesn't.
That's critical.
Yeah.
Always go for the part that's not working.
Yeah, I'm putting a lot of like my success is my relationship status, and then my success is my business growth. And so that's the definition of success, is having a solid relationship and my business making $1 million.
And you know,
like,
no, go ahead.
That happen. And then I feel not successful until that happens.
So if you ask me, it sounds pretty sad.
Yeah.
So what comes up just hearing that to me sounds very sad.
Yeah, because then I'm never happy where I am until
Right.
that happens. And then it's something outside of myself instead of just having happiness inside of me.
It sounds like that's been missing since early childhood.
Yeah.
So what's going to help you to feel okay about who you are?
I don't know. Well, it's releasing the need for a relationship, like, and like that making me whole, like that being success. So really loving and being happy with me. Isn't this interesting?
So in order to be in a successful relationship, one has to love oneself first. So what do you think about that?
Yes, and I feel like I do love myself more than ever. And from reflecting from our questions,
Well, if that were really true, then seeking a relationship or seeking more money or something wouldn't really be the end all be all.
right. Yeah.
So what does that mean then?
Simple.
Yeah, I want to disconnect that being success for sure. I don't want that to be the end all be all.
Okay, so what's going to help you do that?
Wow, I feel blank. mean, I want to say focus on what I have and be grateful for what I have, but that just feels empty. I would love to just stop thinking that, but I don't know how, I guess. So it's interesting. I feel right now like embarrassed that I'm taking up a lot of time, that I'm the center of attention, and it. So why that's important is because I'm allowing myself to be present with me. I'm allowing allowing people to hold space for me. So that feels good, and is emotional. I hold space for people so much. So I guess it's that creating space for me and for myself. Really listening to myself and creating opportunities to be with myself and to not be working, not be looking for a relationship, really just being with me and having fun with me and connecting with me.
It sounds pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And what will that feel like? What will that look like?
Slowing down, not having my days completely packed full. Like even my workouts and meditations, it's like all fitted into a schedule that I'm like rushing through. So slowing down. Be more present.
And what might get in the way of that?
The fact that I have like over 100 clients and have other people in the business that are depending on me. That's just an excuse because I made time before, so make me a priority. So that's just an excuse. And not using that. Yeah. Just repeating myself.
Okay. So when we started, this was about the client and her success in a conversation, or you having expectations. So where are things at this point?
That's the looping.
Well, I knew there was projection on her, but I didn't know how deep it went. So I appreciate that. And yeah, it has nothing to do with her. I know that I supported her a lot. And it was perfect for her. And so for me, it's just a huge reminder that I thought I was doing really well for self-care and taking time for myself. And that was a lie. And I need to stop using like my business and relationship excuses for getting to know myself and connecting with myself. And I need to stop being ashamed for having stuff. Like I get to grow too. So I think I should already be there, but I get to go through my process as well.
So basically you get to be a human being like the rest of us.
Yes. And that's really all people want.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So is there somebody or something that can help you as you figure out how to, or as you really do slow down or stop these crazy expectations?
Okay, I'm stopping now. Oh, okay. Okay, so there were a lot of things obviously in there that I'm sure I really want to take some time to have you share. What did you notice? What will now be different for you going forward, if anything? What surprised you? Anything you want to say after having listened to that?
Yeah, like he sounds like 99% gay. Not to have that come up in the conversation just blows my mind. For
Well-
that not to be a question of his sexuality is just like, I mean, there's some people who have feminine sounds, but I'm a gay expert. And if he's not gay, I'll eat an enchilada and a straw hat.
Well,
What does
yeah,
that matter?
it doesn't have anything.
Well, it matters
to do with-
because he's making the woman this priority of your coaching.
No.
No?
He was saying that he's always been different.
I got that.
Yeah. And the woman had nothing to do this. That's why I said, let's take her completely out of this. What is this about you?
But that didn't come up for you as a coach. It didn't come up that,
Well,
that here's a person who's just, I mean, it doesn't have to be right or wrong. I'm just asking you professionally, did that come up for you as one of the, because gay men go through tumultuous conditions. And
Right.
30 is a great time for like pulling back the covers. Did that come up for you as his coach, as a curiosity?
It did, in some ways. I think when he talked about being different,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what crossed my mind, and I didn't really need any more story. I really didn't need any of the story. I needed to see what was really the problem for him here. What was making this a problem, that he wanted this other woman, his client, to do so much better. But it was really about him not really taking care of himself.
Oh, I thought it was a love affair.
Yeah.
I didn't.
No.
See, I missed that.
He
Oh,
talked about finding a relationship for himself,
mhm.
Yeah.
which was obviously a man. You know,
Yeah.
we could all get that.
Oh, okay. Well, that solves my conundrum.
I think maybe Camber missed maybe the initial context,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Marion, yeah.
Sorry, I gave the context this time. All right, let's keep going. All right. So Jan is saying how deep, yeah, into him, definitely. And that was I mean, you listened to probably 15 minutes and 30 seconds of that conversation. And the first 10 minutes we're trying to figure out what's really going on here, that he keeps talking about this client not doing so well. And then the last maybe 5 minutes was, asking him about resources, who or what could help you as you move forward, and then pretty much closing down. So, yeah.
I like the way that you really didn't let go. You were just, it could have fizzled and calmed down or gone in another gentle direction, but you were like, no, back over here, back over here. And I just have to say, I'm sure he has 100 clients. I am very jealous.
Nothing to be jealous of, because there was a time when I had, 15 or 16, and I thought I was going to just go out of my mind. So, every person is different, and you don't know what that really means, and let's not even go there. And I'm sorry, 1 second, Jen. So yeah, Sharon is saying the shift started when I said, this sounds sad, which was, yes. I mean, in some ways, I don't know if that was the right word I really wanted to use, but I felt it was strong enough to say. It did feel kind of sad to me that somebody at 30 would be so disappointed with life already, and especially my age, I'm thinking 30, like you haven't even begun. Anyway, go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, what I was going to say is I noticed that you didn't use silence, in the earlier part of the conversation, meaning you challenged by asking him and not letting it drift, to something else. Yet towards the end, I had all kinds of questions that I would have been asking him, and you were just quiet. And he got to where he needed to go in that silence. And I thought that was just brilliant. And again, very different than the approach that you took earlier. So thank you for that.
And you know what I always say about the silence is it's the hardest and it's the easiest. It's the hardest because we can't wait to jump in and ask a question, but it's the easiest because you know what? I didn't have to do any thinking. All I had to do was sit back and listen to him think. So in a way, silence is brilliant. I mean, to me, it's the favorite coaching tool of all time because all you have to do is wait, and trust me, the client fills in the space. But you also notice I left a lot of silence after he responded to questions, just in case there was more, because most coaches don't do that. Now, if you're asking an information question, you're just asking for information about the story, there's no need to leave any silence. But if you're asking questions about the person and they have to think, then you have to leave way more silence than you can imagine. Okay, what else did you notice?
I have two questions.
Yeah, sure, Nano.
One is, when you said, if you ask me, that sounds sad. To me, I don't know, like I would be scared to say something like that because it sounds like I'm giving my opinion or putting a judgment on something.
Yes.
So how do you, and I don't know, I thought as a coach, we're not supposed to.
I owned it.
So.
To me, it sounds sad. I'm not saying it is sad. I'm not saying you're sad. I'm saying to me, it sounds sad. I didn't say you sound sad or that's a sad place to be or what an awful situation you think you're, whatever. No, I'm owning it 100%. To me, it sounds sad. What do you think hearing that? And he could have said, oh, well, that's interesting because I don't see where it could possibly be said. He could have said anything, but that really woke him up to, oh yeah, maybe this isn't realistic.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then my other question where, again, I guess I'm not sure if I could or couldn't do, which you did, but was, where does that come from? It to me sounds like, okay, I'm really going to go to the past now.
Yeah. So my thing is, it's a great question. My thing is, you can always dip in and find the source of something. My first grade teacher, a nun in Catholic school, whatever it is, you can always dip. I've heard all these things over the years. You can always dip, but the minute you dip, you have to be right back in the present moment. And then you're not in trouble at all. As long as you don't ask any more questions about that past time. So when he said, where is it coming from? Where's it coming from? And he said elementary school. And, I always felt different. I never asked another question about that. I went right back into the present time. And that's the key.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jim, you had a question.
It was more of just an experience of this. Something really struck me. I don't know how many people have seen the new PCC markers or the new competencies. The new competencies have been out for a while, and one of the language elements in the new competencies that has really struck me over and over again as I'm studying them is that the word partner shows up 11 times.
Yes.
You cannot escape it. And what I really appreciated about this clip here and what you've been sharing is that that's what you're doing. You're really owning and demonstrating that you're owning that you have half this conversation. You're allowed to be curious. You're allowed to have your opinions as long as you own them. I'm just really struck by how, with this new focus, the new emphasis, the overemphasis on partnering, that I feel like it gives us as coaches more permission to just be present to what's happening and have our part to play, and that by doing that, it can have such an impact for the client.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, partnering has always been, or I call it collaboration, but just being in sync, being in the same, on the same page, and really, well, kind of like, I think it was Terrell who said before, but kind of like, the dog with the bone thing, like I don't let go, because the deeper you go and the more you drill down, the more masterful it becomes. And the client rather, organically comes up with their actions. I don't have to get into what are you going to do? How will I know you've done? None of that stuff. That's, very elementary. But here, with a shift in thinking, their actions just come automatically, which is what you really hope for. He's now going to take more time for himself. And as it turned out, he did report in the next conversation that he did wind up making a change in how he looks at his schedule and allowing time for himself and so on. So it really did work, so to speak. Okay, what else? Anything else you want to say about it, or get nervous and want to loop back to original agenda sooner than last 5 minutes? Now, Jan, it's about trusting the process. Trust the process. It all works out. It just does. And it really was 30 minutes in total. Even with starting with the client and she's turning 30 and I want her to be further ahead type of thing. So.
I have a question.
Yes, please,
Hi.
Michelle.
I'm just curious. There was a part when he came to, part of me knows that it's true, or something along those lines. And I was curious your thinking with that, because there was a side of me that thought, oh, well, that could be lovely to, dip into that positive side of him that recognizes that. But did you just feel it was too soon? He hadn't gone deep enough?
No. I have a whole thing in my book, a section called the 1%. All the coaching is not in what they have done well or what they've already done or how great something is going. The coaching is in the missing piece. Okay. That's why I said it was so important that I said to him, okay, well, that's all fine, but let's look at the part that's not working, because that's where the coaching is. Right. So even though they tell you, champion your client and be positive, but the truth is the coaching is in the part that's not working. Right. Okay, even if it's a smidge, Yeah. So that's why I call it the 1%. Got it. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Anything? A comment or question or anything you want?
I'll make a comment. I kept saying to myself, I'm not going to make that comment because it was already talked about. But I just wanted to say that it's the trust that you built quickly, and the partnership, just sort of tagging on to things everyone else said. And back to the, that sounds sad. I mean, you just assumed that there was some trust there and you threw a netball. It could have just hit the net and bounced and he could have said something else. But to me, it sounded very trust building. Like you were okay if he said, you are so wrong there. I'm something else. So I just wanted to share that, even though I know we visited on that already.
Yeah, I think it was an important comment. And it was the truth. And remember, I said to you when I was talking about the direct communication, you can really say whatever you want to say. It's just in how you do it. And, I said, for me, it just, if you ask me, sounds a little sad. What do you think about, hearing that? So it was really, I owned it. I didn't say, remember, as I said before, I didn't say you sound or you are or this is sad. You know, I didn't say that. I did think there was, and I still don't know what the exact word really could be. I mean, in a way, I thought maybe pathetic, but I wasn't going to say that. That would have been really rude. But I think sad kind of described that, you know, I thought it was sad that somebody could have those kinds of expectations at the age of 30 and $1 million be in a relationship. I mean, that is sad to me. It really is. That it was just so, even, you know, unrealistic, but also what was making it a problem for him. Remember, I'm holding that in mind. What is making this a problem for you? And that's what was making it a problem, is that he had this unbelievable expectation of himself that just wasn't realistic. That's why holding that question in mind is so critical. Have you ever re-listened to a session like this and thought about going a different direction and what might that look like? Just curious. Well, what's pretty funny about that, Karen, is, you know, I always say to anybody who wants any credential or wants to improve, listen to your coaching, go back and listen, go back and listen. I always say that. And the truth is, I never go back and listen, just so you know, Karen. That's the truth. I don't go back and listen to myself unless somebody brings something up and I have to go back and say, okay, well, what did I really do there? Because you have to understand, I am so present when I'm coaching. I have no idea what I've said. When you ask me after, somebody asked me afterwards, anything I've said, I could never tell you. So in that case, sometimes I do have to go back. But what a different direction, no, because for me, it's always about just going deeper and deeper and deeper. There's not a direction as far as I'm concerned. It's figuring out what's making it a problem and then just, like the dog with the bone, just staying there. So I don't think, to me, there are different ways of getting to the same place, but I don't see, Karen, just so you know, but I don't see different directions, if that makes sense. I'm not sure it does, but you can say if it does or doesn't. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay with that.
You can unmute too, Karen, but.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else, anything? No? Okay.
Nahid, do you want to take over?
I was just
Or-
typing in the box that I had to go, but
Oh,
thank you so
okay.
much. But let me just say, since I'm off mute, Marion, that was just so instructive and so powerful for me. You know, I've been coaching for 20 years and I got so many gems out of that. Your silence was probably the thing that moved me the most. But I'm so grateful that I have your book because I can listen to it over and over. And I just know it's going to make me a better coach. And I think we can always get better as coaches, but this has definitely been pivotal for me. And I can see from our engagement that it's the same. So I just want to thank you so much for giving us the gift of your time and your wisdom. And I just so appreciate it on the behalf of ICF.
Thank you. I just want to say, Dell is asking a question. Did I consciously choose to avoid the use of reflective statements? Most of the time, yes, because a lot of what I heard was just story, story, story. There really wasn't much, and I wanted to keep those questions as simple and stay out of it as much as I could so that he would have a lot to say. Just so that's my answer. Okay, I'm sorry, Nahid. I didn't mean to, but I wanted to answer the question. That's kind of my thing. Sorry, it's the OCD part. Anyway,
Thank you, Marion.
but I thank you, Nanor and Nahid, and really I want to thank everybody really for being here and keeping your videos on. It makes me so happy, and you know, and I'm happy if you still have questions that come up for you, just send an email through the contact form on my website and I'm happy to answer questions, really. I have no problem with that. So
Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you so much, Marion. You
Thank-
have like a gazillion thank yous on the chat. I think I'll save it and maybe send you some of these.
Yeah, would you
So
please? That would be
absolutely, yes, I will.
Good.
And you guys will be receiving a survey from us probably tomorrow. So please, please reply back to that and share. I'm sure we're going to get some awesome testimonials for Marion around this one. So thank you everyone for joining us. We have, you know, November is right around the corner and we are jam-packed. So please go on our events page and join us. We have several business development series coming up with Adam Quiney. And then we have our book club. It's called The Last Word on Power. And then we have a great virtual meeting coming up, which we'll be talking about how to do presentations and pitches. So especially virtually now that we're mostly on Zoom. So we hope to see you guys joining us a lot more as you have been. We love your community and your participation. So thank you for that. All right, guys, we'll
Thank
see
you.
you soon.
Comments. Thank you.
Marion, you're the
Thank you.
best.
Oh,
The best. Yeah,
Thanks so
absolutely.
much.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it. Thanks. Really.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Ciao.